Hey guys, happy Monday, right? I missed you guys yesterday, but remember I told you that I probably wasn't going to go live on Sunday because yesterday was my husband's birthday. And um, if you guys have not known me that long, birthdays are a really big deal in my family. So I look so tired. Like, I took a picture this morning and I looked so lively and awake, and now I'm like about to pass out. I'm going to give you guys some time to get on. Hi, Stephanie. Hello, hello. I was gonna try to record these checks that I got right quick while I wait for you guys to get on. I'm so sleepy. But today, as promised, we are going to talk about certificates. Hello, Michael. Welcome. All right, let's see. Where do we start? We got one, two, three, four. I'm going to give everyone a little time to get on. I came on early so that I can see how many people were going to be coming in. So we have not started yet. Woo, Stephanie, girl, girl. I know, I know. But that's good that you're busy. I'm happy to hear that. Oh, I need my, hold on. I got to get the copy. I don't want to write on this. Don't want to write on this. But we had a great time yesterday. Took hubby to dinner in his favorite place that he always wants to go to. He's so goofy. But it was his day, so we were like, okay. Mm. Thank you for what, Michael? What were you thanking me for? I don't remember what I said. Yes, I am happy you were busy, girl. What time is it? Almost 8:30. I love they send these in order, so I don't have to go searching through to see where they are. Let's go right down the line. Yep. And this one is non-deposit. So, how was you guys' weekend and your week? Let me know if you guys did anything exciting or if you just chilled or if you did anything working on your business. I know I'm going to be working with my daughter on some different ideas that I have for my social media marketing for next month. Got some more targeted strategies that I want to focus on. All right, that was it. All done recording that. All right, and it is 8:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, for those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, my name is Berjo, and I am the owner of Bailey's Notary Services as well as the Notary Education Group. We get together every Sunday for the most part. The last 2 weeks I got started on Monday because I had something going on Sunday, but that doesn't happen that often. So we get together every Sunday at 8:30 at night or sometimes 10:30 in the morning, depending on what I have going on. And we talk about notary and business related topics and tips. So if you can, please drop in the comment who's watching me and where you're watching me from. I always like to know who's joining me for my lives. And then while you guys are doing that, let me pull up my agenda for the night. so I can stay on topic. Because one thing I do is I love to talk, and I will definitely get off topic real quick. It's not hard for me to do that. So, as you guys saw, the topic for tonight, we are going to be getting back to the basics. Hey, Swan! Swan tuning in from Georgia. Hey, girl. We're going to be getting back to the basics, guys. I have very disturbingly been seeing a lot of people posting in these Facebook groups. They do not know how to fill out certificates. And guys, that is Notary Basics 101. All right, Michael from Florida. That's where I'm from. That's where I'm at, Florida. Hey, girl. Hey. Yes. So, Notary Basics 101. You should know what a notary certificate is. You should know how to fill out a notary certificate. Okay. I don't care if the notary certificate is one that you're unfamiliar with. You just take your time and you read it and you fill it in. Okay. One of the most important parts of a notarization is the certificate. Okay. Remember, the notary certificate is what explains what took place. All right. It tells the story of what happened for that notarial act that was performed. It tells where the act took place, the date it took place, who were the signers, what type of act was performed, and who the person was who took the acknowledgement or administered the oath. All right, and that's us. So, in order for the notarization to be valid, it always have to have a notarial certificate. All right. Now, there are some acts that you may perform that would not require a certificate, which would be an oath for deposition. All right. But for the most part, we are attaching certificates to the majority of the documents that touch our hands. All right. That we handle. Um, and we're only talking about notary work. So we're not talking about you doing I-9 verifications and all that. We're not talking about none of that because we know I-9s are not a notary act, period. It's just an additional service that we can provide. And then employers will look to us to accommodate them, verifying their employees or whatever. So, certificate. Let's talk about it. The definition and importance of the notarial certificate. I basically just broke it down. There I go, going off topic. But I just broke it down. The different types are the acknowledgement and the jurat. Okay, those are the most common, and you're going to see those the majority of the time. Like 95% of the time, we are doing acknowledgments, we're doing jurats. All right, we know that with an acknowledgement, it does not necessarily have to be signed in our presence, but there are some states where they don't want the signers to sign unless they're in the notary's presence at all. All right, so what does that mean to you? That means that if you're in a state that requires the signer to sign in your presence for both an acknowledgement and a jurat, then you should be doing that. All right, I can only speak from my experience. I'm in Florida. An acknowledgement does not have to be signed in my presence, but the signer does have to acknowledge to me that that is their signature on the document at the time of notarization. Now, then we have the jurat. We know the jurat is them making a sworn statement under oath that the information is true in that document that they're about to sign, right? We have to administer the oath every time we do a jurat because if we don't, the notarization is not valid. And this is extremely important when you're doing this online. It's an online notary because it's being recorded. So if they ever ask for that video recording and they see that the act is a jurat and you are not administering the oath, that notarization will be deemed non-valid. It's not valid at all. All right. So we want to make sure that we're taking the time, knowing the difference between the acknowledgement and the jurat, and what steps we have to take to perform both acts. Okay. So key components of notary certificates. It does vary from state to state, but in Florida, we have specific 9 elements. Okay, and I showed you guys this before. I had to make this card for myself because I was making mistakes. I was making small mistakes that I knew better about, but that was because I was rushing. So now I have this little card, and it's just a refresh and a reminder every time. If I'm doing a notarization, and right off the back, especially if you are performing notarizations on documents that were not drafted in Florida, they were drafted in other states, which you're going to come across a lot because even though you're a notary in the state that you are in, you can notarize documents from any state as long as you are within your jurisdiction. So you are going to be asked if a person is visiting, they need a document notarized before they go. They may bring the documents to you, and they're from New York, they're from California, they're from Georgia, or whatever. You still have to act within your commission jurisdiction. What does jurisdiction mean? Your state. All right, wherever you're able to operate. There are some states where the notaries can operate or perform their acts in bordering states. All right, and Montana is one of them, which I know for a fact because I have a notary friend who is in Montana, and she can notarize in her bordering states. I'm in Florida. I can only notarize when I'm in Florida. Okay, so I get a lot of documents for transactions in Georgia. Georgia certificates are just, they're the worst. But you are able to attach a loose certificate. Whenever you come across a notarial certificate that is not valid for your state, you have to make it valid. Yes, Swanis. Yeah, you're in Georgia, right? You guys' certificates are terrible. Every time I see the documents, I'm just like, you know. So when you get a document, okay, and you're examining it, you got to make sure all of the signature lines are signed, all of the initial lines are initialed, all of the date lines are dated, right? And then if there's any other information, like a lot of times I come across the closing affidavit, sometimes it'll have the social and the address already there on the second page, I believe it is, and sometimes it's not there. Sometimes there's a blank line, sometimes there's no line. So I always have to make sure I'm looking to see, because what'll happen is if I don't notice it, I'll get contacted. Hey, you forgot to have the person put their social and their address on the closing affidavit. I'm like, oh, because there was no lines. And I've trained my eyes to notice lines. You know, when I'm looking through documents, so if I see a line, I stop. Is that for me? Is that for my signer? No, keep going. So it's a lot of paying attention, being very detail oriented when you're notarizing these documents. And so when you come across a document that has a certificate that is non-compliant, you can either make it compliant, all right? So when you're looking at the documents, you come to the notarial part, you're thinking, ask yourself these questions. Is this certificate compliant for my state? How can I make the certificate compliant for my state? Can I make the certificate compliant for my state? Because there are some certificates where I can't work with it, and I just have to add a certificate. If you add a certificate to a document, do not fill out the certificate that is in the document. If you're not using it, you don't fill it out. You strike a line through it, you put your initials, and you write "See attached certificate." Some people, they'll put the specific type of certificate that they attach. So you can put "See attached acknowledgement certificate," "See attached jurat certificate." I like to put "See attached notarial certificate." Although the stamp that I have, it just says "See attached certificate." I was thinking about ordering a new one, but I have so many stamps, I'm just not. And something new that I found out, which I have a name stamp, which is my printed name. Now in Florida, we cannot have a stamp for our signature. All right. I know there are some states that don't have a restriction on that, but we can't. But I can have a printed name stamp. So I had a title company that I work for. I did like maybe 4 signings for them so far, and they just contacted me and said, "Hey, don't use printed name stamps on our documents. Just write the name." And I'm like, "Why?" because on the line for our certificates in Florida, it says that we can print, type, or stamp our name. So now I have to remember not to do that. But I'm going to read off to you guys the elements for Florida that we have to make sure is in the certificate. So if you ever are, if you're someone from another state and you come to Florida, okay, and you see us writing extra stuff on the document, just know we're trying to make it compliant without having to attach a whole nother certificate. Especially if you got room. If you got a lot of room, you can make it work. I hate my writing, but I'll try my best to make it work with the certificate that is pre-printed on the document, okay? So the 9 elements that are required for Florida certificates is the venue, okay? That is the location in which you are when you're notarizing the document. Not where the customer is, not where the customer lives, wherever you are. So either you're at the customer residence, you're at the customer work, you're at Starbucks, Panera, Publix, Walmart. The venue is wherever you are at the time of notarization, okay? Because I've seen people ask questions about that too. For the venue, what do I do? Do I put where they live? Well, is that where you are? Well, no, we met at Publix. Well, no, it's wherever you were at the time of notarization. It's talking about you and how you perform the act, not the customer. Okay. The notarization type. Okay. It needs to have those keywords in there. Is it an acknowledgement? Is it a jurat? Look for the keywords. In Florida, we cannot do signature witnessing. So if it does not have the keywords that we're looking for that identifies it as an acknowledgement or a jurat, then we don't know what the act is, and then we need to ask the customer to choose after informing them the differences between the two. Okay, excuse me. We also are allowed to perform our notary acts online. So we need to say, how was the notary act performed? Was it performed in physical presence where the person was face to face with me in person, or was it performed online? We need to say that in our certificate. And a lot of times it's not there and I have to add it. The date of notarization, that needs to be in the certificate. And I think that's across the board. I don't think that's just Florida specific. But let me keep going. The name of the signer. If the signer's name or the witness's names are in the notary certificate, then they are being notarized, okay? Whether it be their signature, whether it be the act that they are making an acknowledgement or doing an oath, their name is still in that certificate. So that means that if you are in a state where you can be a witness, for example, and in the notary certificate, it's it states for you to add the witness name in the notary certificate and then seal that with your signature and seal, that means you cannot be a witness. And I saw this mentioned in a Facebook group too. People were saying, well, the witness didn't sign, so technically you're not notarizing their signature. But the certificate is what tells what you're doing. So if you're notarizing your own name within the certificate as one of the people, either a witness or a signer, yeah, I broke my nail. You cannot be a witness on that transaction, okay? Don't let anybody tell you different. And I know Facebook is supposed to be, you know, having those groups for support, but Facebook is just for social, guys. It's not for learning and getting skills, okay? Learning and skills are not on Facebook, okay? People who have academies like myself and Notary to Pro and loan signing system and signing agent basics and notary to notary, those are learning platforms. Facebook is not. Facebook is not a learning platform, okay? The type of ID that they produced, all right, we need to tell. Did they use a passport? Did they use a driver's license? Did they use a state ID card? Did they use a, what's the other one? A permanent resident card. You know, we need to state that in our certificate. And then we need to sign, and our printed name needs to be under our signature, okay? And if under the signature it doesn't say Notary Public, we need to be adding that under the, with the printed name. Our name, comma, Notary Public, okay? And if you're ever asked to put your name in a certificate, you need to put comma notary public if it's not already there. And then your seal. Don't forget your seal. After you've done all of that, made sure all the elements are there, and you've filled it out and you've signed it, if you don't seal it, it's not valid. So please don't forget to apply your notary seal. Now, I want to share with you guys some notary certificates, because I'm talking about it, but for some people who are new, they're like, what are you talking about, girl? What's a notary certificate? Do I give them, like, I make a certificate and I give it to them when I'm done notarizing? I don't know what you're talking about. So let me go ahead and pull up some documents. And I'm going to go to my member library because that's where I know I have a lot of sample documents. Oh, crap. I'm going to share my screen. This is not the right place. Okay, hold on. I got to sign in, I believe. Yeah, I cleared my cache, so I have to sign in. Okay, hold on. Here it is. Is that the password? Oh, where's my phone? Gotta tell them it's me trying to sign in. Okay. All right, here we go. Oh my God, my cat's fighting over here. All right, so here's another way that you can, let me show you guys. Let's share my screen. And I'm not going to go over a whole lot of certificates with you guys. I'm just going to do maybe a couple because I'm going to do a part 2 to this live. I really want to drill it in so that you guys will be able to effortlessly complete these notary certificates correctly. Okay. So here in our Academy library, I have the breakdown what you're looking for. So 1, the venue. All right. 2, it is the type. You see these keywords, sworn to or affirmed or subscribed? That's a jurat. How do we know? Because it's swearing an affirmation, which means we have to administer an oath. How did we perform the notarization? We need to let them know, was it physical presence or online? And then we need to have the date of notarization. Okay, there's no getting around that. And the person's name should be in the certificate. But if the name is not in the certificate, then that means that everybody who signed the signature, everybody who applied their signature is getting notarized. But for the purposes of me talking about Florida, we do need to be making sure that our signer's name is printed. Okay. Then we have our signature, our printed name, type of ID produced. Okay. And then we have our seal. Now, this extra space you see down here is not required, but it's optional. And it's actually important because if you are attaching this to a document, you need to tell what the certificate is going to be attached to. This way, it deters the customer from attaching this certificate to, yes, Swanis, it is. But the certificate wording or verbiage is from my state statute. You don't want them to attach the loose certificate to a different document. So you want to make sure you add this so that you can title what document that certificate belongs to. You can't just put it on anything. Okay. And then we have the acknowledgement here. Okay. Again, we have the venue. And then here, you see that keyword acknowledged. That's how we know it's an acknowledgement. We're just looking for keywords, guys. Okay. How did they appear? Physical presence or online. The date of notarization. Their name. The signature of the notary, the printed name of the notary up under the signature, the type of ID produced, and then our notary seal. Okay. And then I have here explaining each element. All right. And like I said, this is in the Academy library. A lot of you already have access. And remember, once you have access, it's unlimited. It's for a lifetime. And I'm always adding stuff because I'm just you know, I find something new, I want to add it. I want you guys to have access to it. And the reason why I created the library is because I want you to have a place to go and get resources, and you're not having to search all over the internet for it. All right. Now I'm going to pull up a document. So here I have a sample loan modification, and this is just like any other document. You get the documents and you're reviewing them. Okay, now I have a lot of information redacted on here because this is actually from a signing that I had, but I left the important stuff. Okay, so here you even have some information for the notary. Okay, one most important thing I want to tell you guys is always read the instructions. You have, and I've been guilty of this. You know, I've done so many signings for one company, and it'll be that one time they put some in the instructions that I'm not used to doing, and then they're like, "Did you read the instructions? Why did you do this?" And I'm like, "No." So always read your instructions. If they give you instructions, read them. I don't care if you've done several signings with this company. It's going to be that one day that you decide not to read those instructions, that they want you to do something specific, and you don't have anyone to blame but yourself. All right, so read the instructions they give you. All right, so I'm just scanning through this because I want to see what we're doing. All right, and bam, we got two signature lines. Both my signers' names are printed up under there, so they're going to need to sign and they're going to need to put today's date. Then we get here, and I'm looking again. Where are we signing? Bam, we're signing here. All right, today's date. And sometimes loan mods will have a notarization and sometimes they won't. I've had them where I just went to the borrower's house and all they did was sign and I didn't have to notarize anything. Okay. But in this case, we do have a notary certificate. And you want to be careful because sometimes it'll say acknowledgement for the title, but then you will notice that the certificate will say sworn to or subscribed before me. And so we know that's not an acknowledgement, right? We know that's a jurat. So make sure that you are always reading this. Now, this here is your notary certificate. So for those of you who are unfamiliar and you keep saying to yourself, I wish she would stop saying notary certificate and show me what the heck she's talking about. This is what I'm talking about. The notary certificate is the notary verbiage that explains what took place for that notarial act performed. Okay? And I'm recording this so you will be able to go back and watch this again, pause it, take any type of notes that you need to. So we know this here is actually an acknowledgement because it has the key word right here. The foregoing instrument was acknowledged before me by means of physical or online presence or online notarization, I'm sorry. This date by, and then the person's name is pre-printed here. If it's not pre-printed, you need to write it in. Then you have your signature, a place for your printed name, and then you need to indicate how they produced identification to verify their identity to you. You fill all of this information in, and then you're going to apply your stamp. Now, I've heard or I've read in the groups too, where do you put your stamp? Your stamp always needs to be near your signature, right? So that could be top, bottom, left, or right, wherever you can fit it, but make sure that it's as close to your signature as possible and near the certificate, okay? So I'll give you an example. There have been times where there has been a certificate and it was 2 pages. So they'll have just this part here, the foregoing instrument, how I performed the notarization, or how they, I'm sorry, how they appear before me. It'll have the date, and then on the next page, it'll have the signature and all that stuff. All right, so you don't want your seal to be apart from the certificate because it all goes together. All right, so if you got to add a certificate in that case, you got to add a certificate. Okay, because you need the notarization to be compliant for your state. Okay, and just a caveat, people who get documents notarized who are not notaries themselves, they don't know what you're supposed to do. So don't feel bad if they're like, I don't think that's right. You know what you're supposed to do. They necessarily don't. So as part of your role of being a notary is not just to notarize documents, but it's also to educate the public so that they know what we're doing, and they're not sitting there thinking that you're just doing something wrong and messing up their documents. Okay. And then we have more signature lines and dates, and we're done. There's nothing else to notarize here. All right. And that is our loan modification sample. Now let's see if I can find. Okay, let's look at another document here. Let's try this sample loan package that I have. It's 99 pages. I won't go through it all, I promise. But I'm just going to maybe locate the first notarization that is required on here. Okay. Again, with the instructions. You see these instructions? Read the instructions. Even if they're not for you, you may find there's one sentence in the whole thing. It could be for the settlement agent. It could have been for the closing agent. And then they got one sentence in there for the notary only. But you bypass it because you're like, oh, it doesn't like it's for me. So always pay close attention to the instructions when you see them come up, okay? All right, so here I'm scrolling. And I'm looking for it. Look what we got. Page 1. We got initials at the bottom. You guys see that? Initials. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Okay, I think that's better. All right. So first thing I noticed, initial lines at the bottom. But you see how quick you can go past this and miss that? So you always want to be paying attention to those empty lines. All right. So we got more initial lines. Was there any lines up here for signals? Now you see, I see the lines. I've trained my eyes to notice these lines, okay, when they come up. More initial lines, and bam, we got name lines here. So signature and date. Okay, this is for the settlement agent. That's not for you. You're not the settlement agent. More initial lines. And then we have the uniform residential loan application. Now, these applications appear in two different formats. I'll show you the other one. But on this sample loan package that I have, the borrowers are signing at the top. Okay? And let's see. This one doesn't have initials, I think. Let's just look very carefully. It has an initial at the bottom. You see that? All right. Initial again. Initial again. Loan originator signature. That's not for your customer, but you do have here acknowledgement agreement. You got some initials in the middle of the page. Not initials, signatures. Signatures in the middle of the page. You see how easy it is to go past that? You don't want to miss that. All right. Signature and date right in the middle of the darn page. And then they have here more signatures at the top of this one page. And look at the bottom too. Then you have the note, initials, signatures. Now, this is a document that we do have to notarize, the mortgage. So initials at the bottom, initials at the bottom, initials at the bottom, initials. It's 14 pages, so I'm not going to keep repeating it. Let's just keep going. And sometimes you may have an initial that's required in the middle of this page. This has happened to me before. So instead of you skipping through, look at every page. Look at every page because you just don't want to miss any lines. All right, and here we go. Signatures and witness lines. Now in Florida, although these documents will have for the mortgage to be witnessed, if the lender isn't asking for you to do it, you don't have to do it. It's not required. Now these particular documents are from Illinois, if you can tell here. Can I highlight that? I can't. This is an Illinois single family Fannie Mae uniform instrument right here. Okay, so these documents were drafted in Illinois. Okay, so if they asked you to have witnesses, then you have witnesses sign. If they didn't ask, I like to ask anyway, and sometimes they'll tell me, well, if we didn't put it, then we didn't want it. I'm like, yeah, but see, I've learned, I've been doing this 4 years. I don't assume nothing. I'm going to call and I'm going to ask, do they want the mortgage witness? Yes or no? Because I need to know before I go out to these people's house so I can see if they can have a witness or two lined up. Okay. And then here is our certificate. Now, right off the bat, I see it's not compliant for my state. I already know just from looking at it. Now, just because the document says State of Illinois, County of Cook, it does not mean that you automatically do away with it and attach your own certificate. You can make this compliant. There's a lot of free space for you to make this compliant for your state. Okay, so all you have to do is correct the venue. You draw a line through Illinois, you draw a line through Cook, put your initials and write your state and write your county. Simple as that. The foregoing instrument was acknowledged before me this date. Okay, I do need the date by blank. I do need their name, and I have all this space. So what am I going to do? Was acknowledged before me this May 5th, 2011 by sample via physical presence who produced such and such identification or produced so and so as identification. And then I can sign. I have to put my name up under my signature. I can write my title if they want it, and I don't have a serial number. And then I can put my stamp. Now let's look at my elements. Did I cover all the elements? The venue, check. Notarization, check. Physical presence or online presence, check. Date of notarization, check. Name of signer, check. ID type produced, check. Notary signature, notary printed name, notary seal. Now I've made this certificate compliant for my state. Okay, so you don't have to worry just because it looks like this. Don't get intimidated. All right, make it compliant. Write the information in there. Okay, this certificate is perfect for adding your own information because they have all these lines. You can make it nice and neat. Take your time and write. And look, don't worry about signers worrying about. Don't worry about signers looking at you while you're doing your thing because they don't know what you're doing anyway. Okay, I'm doing my job. I'm making sure these documents are compliant for my state for which I am commissioned to notarize. Okay, and when it goes back to wherever it's going back, it's going to be compliant for your state either way. But I'm not an Illinois notary, I'm a Florida notary. So this certificate needs to be compliant for my state, not Illinois. Okay, and that is the only one I'm going to show y'all because, like I said, this is 99 pages. I had to wait to get to page 30 to find the first page to notarize. So we're not going to go through that. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So I showed you guys what a certificate is. I showed you how to fill one out. I showed you what elements are required for Florida notaries. Please, if you are not from Florida, look in your state statutes or your handbook. Where's my bag? My notary bag all the way over there. But if you have the notary primer, I purchased mine from the NNA. You can look in there and it will tell you how your certificate is supposed to look or the verbiage you're supposed to use, or maybe even tell you the elements like my handbook does of what is required in a notary statement for you to make it compliant. Okay, you can always add the information and you can always cross out information. If you have a certificate that is not like that one where it has all of that room for you to write in information, then yes, you will have to attach a new certificate. But if at all you can make the pre-printed certificate compliant, always do that as a first resort. Your first resort should not always be to add a certificate unless you're in California. Now I know in California, their laws are a lot more strict than some of ours. So they may have to just block that out and use a whole notarial certificate because they have to have like this border and all that stuff. It's just a lot going on with California. So Make sure that you know what you can do in your state. All right. Now let me see. We talked about common mistakes, how to avoid them, best practices. Now, let's say you went through the whole notary packet, you did everything you're supposed to do, and you guys are done. You got to the end. You're not done. The signers are done though. You need to go back through those documents. Now, when I'm going through the documents, I look at them before I just flip them over. Okay, the signer gives it back to me. I'm looking at it because sometimes they'll be writing the date all wrong, or they'll scribble, and they people don't know. So I'll immediately have them correct it. Then I'll flip it over. But when we're done, I'm going back through those documents again because I don't want to have to go back out there. I've had to do a double trip more than once, okay? And it's not fun because you made a mistake. But it's got to be done because it's your mistake and you got to fix it. And you can't complain and be mad at no one but yourself. So you go back through the documents, all right? Paying close attention to anything you may have missed. Like that mortgage is 14 pages, go through each page. Because, like I said, sometimes I'll have a mortgage and it'll have like an initial line right in the middle, and I didn't see because I'm thinking, oh, we don't need nothing, all the initial lines at the bottom. No, they're not. Check every page. And then sometimes I'll get done and something in my gut will say, no, you need to go back through that. I'll go back through it. Go back through the documents. Go back through them. Making sure all of the lines are filled in where they're supposed to be. Making sure there are no scribbles. Making sure there's no errors, no missing information. Remember I told you guys on the closing affidavit? Matter of fact, let me show you. I'm going to share my screen. Again, on the closing affidavit, I have missed the space where they put in their social and address. I'm gonna see if I can find it right quick. Hold on. Would it be here? Let's see. Bill of sale. And even here, even on these 1099s, sometimes right here where it says transfers TIN, sometimes that'll be blank. And your customer has to fill it in and put their social. So that's another one you want to pay attention to. But I'm looking for the closing affidavit because that's the one that trips me up. Let me see if they have it. It's not this one. No. It may not have it on this one. Let's see. Oh, yes, it does. All right. So it's not this page, but it's always page 2. That gets me every time. You see this where it says seller's U.S. taxpayer identification number is, seller's address is. Sometimes that information won't be pre-printed. Sometimes that information is blank. Sometimes you will have a line there for them to fill it in, and sometimes there won't be a line at all. So on page 2 of the closing affidavit, you want to make sure that that information is already pre-printed, and if it is not, you want to instruct your signers to fill it in. Okay? I have missed that a handful of times, and that 1099 too, because I just automatically think that they got it already printed. Like, I don't have to worry about that. But no, you do. They want them to write that information in there. That's why they didn't print it, because they probably didn't know it or wasn't sure of it. So you need to add the information. Okay? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen on that. Definitely pay attention to that closing affidavit and that's 1099. Oh my God. It's been a headache for those, for sure. And then for me, I'm like, well, the closing affidavit, it is notarized, but the 1099, I just had them electronically put it on there. Yeah. but all jokes aside, get it done while you're there, so that they don't have to do extra work on their end to get that information. All right, it just makes sense. Okay. Let me see. Anything else I want to talk about? Do you guys have any questions? I said a lot. That's why my mouth is dry. I've been talking a lot. Do you guys have any questions about anything I talked about? The certificates, filling them out correctly. Maybe you want to share a time where you got confused and you saw a certificate that made you pause for a minute and you were looking like, I ain't never seen this before. I don't know how to fill this out. That's happened to me. But what you just have to do is you have to pause and read the certificate. And sometimes I read it out loud to myself. And the signers will be like, what? And I'm like, oh no, I was talking to myself. I'm just trying to figure out what the certificate is telling me to do for you because it's not worded the way that I'm used to it being worded. And that's it. You know, it's not going to make them think, oh, she'll know what she's doing. They're like, oh, okay. She got to take her time and do that. Thank you, Stephanie. I always want to make sure that when I'm telling you guys something that I'm making it very clear and easy to understand because I know that sometimes all of this stuff can get really confusing, especially when you're starting out. I can't tell you guys how many times I had to pause. I was always pausing. I get some documents. I'm like, hmm, hmm, okay, all right, I think I can do this. You know, so, but it doesn't matter. Pause and take your time because they're going to be mad at you if they spend all this time with you and you didn't do your part right. Okay, signers, they are not as forgiving to you as they are to themselves. Okay, if they mess up, they like, God, all right, what I gotta do? You mess up? Oh, baby, it's gonna be a windstorm. Oh, you should have never done it. And then they're gonna make up stuff about and she arrived and I knew I couldn't trust her and then and ain't nothing none of that happened. But people get mad when they can't get done what they needed to get done in the time frame that they wanted to get it done. So take your time, read, look at all the pages, two, three, four times, however many times you need to make sure that the documents are correct. Because when you mess with people money, let me tell you, people are not nice. Okay? I'm sure you can attest to the same. If people mess with your money, you're not nice either. All right? So I'm going to end tonight's session. All right, Michael. Well, I'm happy that you joined us tonight, especially since we were talking about notary basics, because these notary certificates are important to us performing our acts. No notary certificate, no notarization. All right. So you guys ever see a document where it just has notary sign here and you sign and put your stamp, you already messed up. Notary certificate has to be attached to every document we notarize, whether it's pre-printed, whether you stamp it on there. I have notary certificate stamps. They're big, but if I got enough room, then the certificate is getting stamped on there. Or if you got to write in the missing information, doesn't matter. You have to have that certificate. All right, Michael, I'm happy. I'm happy you came. You are very welcome, Stephanie. So you guys, I'm gonna go. All right. I had an early day and I got a late night tomorrow. But thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining me live. You know, I enjoy when you guys come and you talk to me. I think that this was a really good session, and we're going to do a part two. I may even do a part three. I just want to really drill it in you guys' head about these notary certificates and making sure that you know how to fill them out. All right. So, you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys for sure this Sunday coming up. All right. Good night, guys.